Hello everyone. Today we will continue to look at the explanation of the Red Hat Certified Engineer exam questions. Next, we will move on to the second question. For the first question, we have a basic environment installation and configuration. After configuring it, if there are no issues upon verification, we will proceed further. Starting from the second question, all questions are based on the first one. If there is an issue with the first question, none of the subsequent questions can be done. So it's crucial to ensure that the first question is completely and correctly done before moving on. This is very important. Once the first question is completed, we can then start configuring our repository. The IP has already been configured by default, and we've already tested this in some earlier stages, so there's no need to test it again. Therefore, we'll start directly from configuring the repository. Some students have asked in the previous beginner stages, haven't we already configured the repository twice? Why do we need to configure the repository again here? Okay, that's a good question. This is because the configuration methods are actually different. You see, in the earlier stages, the configuration method was essentially done by, by manually editing the files, right? It was implemented by manually editing the files. Of course, on server A, it needs to be manually written, while on server B, you can directly copy a file from server A. This was our approach in the beginner stage, and our current method is, in the intermediate stage, let's think about it. We have 5 machines. With virtual machines, configuring each one individually is not very convenient, right? So our approach here is to centrally distribute our configurations and files to the 5 client machines from the control end. The method of distribution is not simply copying files directly. Instead, we use a specific method to distribute them. This approach is applied to all subsequent tasks as well. Commands or ansible playbooks, whether commands or playbooks, are used as specified in the task requirements. If the task requires you to achieve something through a file, then you should use a playbook. If there are no specific requirements, you can use commands. Generally, I primarily use playbooks, with some commands as supplementary tools. So, in the end regarding the exam results, right? Here, there's actually no need to shut down and restart for verification. This verification is unnecessary. At the beginner level, as we mentioned before, there are many services, right? For many services, we need to install them separately, and after installation, perform operations like setting startup fonts, etc. We usually need to restart to ensure everything is stable. But at the intermediate level, this is not required, because at the intermediate level, our final result is just a dozen or so files. In the end, our exam submission is just a dozen or so files, nothing more, no commands, just those files placed there. Ultimately, during the exam, the final verification is actually done by executing your files to see if the results are correct. That's how it is. It's not quite the same as the beginner level, huh? Here, we basically have just a dozen or so files, 1 file per question, or maybe 2 files. For this question, our requirement is first, as you can see, it asks us to create something, to create a file. Right? Create a file. And then install our yum repository on each managed node. There are a total of 2 repositories here, and it's already written out in great detail. This is actually the repository issue I mentioned earlier. If the question requires us to write the name, description, here's the check, and the URL of K and so on. You just write it. If the question requires it, write it. If not, then what can you do here? For example, you can, here, you write name for the name, write this down, and then for the description, it depends on whether it's required. This is the base URL, which is mandatory because it's the path. And the following GPT check is to be enabled if the question requires you to write it, and you just need to configure it and write down the path. Of course, this path will be provided in the question, so you can just copy it. If the question doesn't require it, for example, in the basic exam, if there's no such requirement, you can simply write no or 0. Enable means 1. Yes. Or disable is also fine. This is our basic situation. Of course, if the question requires it, it doesn't specify anything. It doesn't say enable, right? Because if you don't write it, the repository cannot be enabled. So it doesn't specify that requirement. It only states what is required. Name, description, path, check, etc. So this part is relatively longer. It will be a bit longer, but that's okay. Even if you don't copy it, you can just type it out once. So for the second time, for the second repository below, you can directly copy it and then just modify the content inside. Most of its content is actually consistent. So there's really not much to pay attention to here at all. Alright, this is our basic situation. Of course, before you start the second task, it's best to first verify some results from the first task. Besides using pin, you can also use some of our other commands. For example, let me give you an example. This is from our previous task, right? These are some results executed through the p module. And then, besides the p module, another method is like this. Through our host inventory, right? There is one in our host inventory. Such a configuration, including our host names and some information about the host names. Here, we can see that it lists all our hosts. What can we see included here? Node 5, the three groups of Node 1 and Node 2. Web service, because here we have added the prod group into the web service. So the largest group here is the web service, and inside it there is a subgroup, AO, with two hosts. Okay, this is our basic situation. AOS Baami, as you can see here, right? You can verify again with the p module, and if everything is fine, we can start with our second task. Okay, here it is. Actually, in our intermediate exam, there are many questions where you can check the help documentation. You can always refer to the help documentation. For example, let me give you an example. This command is very important. You might want to remember it. Although it is not directly related to the exam, it is very important because you can use it to. Use this command to check for a specific module, ultimately, whether through a command or through our files. If you want to execute and manage all our clients, what do you need? You need to pay attention to one thing, which is everything is done through module. Once you have checked a certain module, for example, so you don't know, let's say we have these two modules here, right? After seeing them, we can directly use this. After filtering it out, we can use the ansible .c command to directly view it. For example, like this. Okay, after directly viewing Epida and pressing enter, you can see that it shows us many options here. All the options related to this module are here, and you can scroll up and down. Then finally, you can see here some of the basic content that will be used inside. Hey, do you see it here? GBT check is here, GBT. If there are any complex modules later on, if you forget how to use them, what should we do? You can refer to some hints here to add some. If you forget a certain option, you can directly find it inside. This is our help document, and it's free. The help document, if you forget, you can directly look at it. It's relatively useful, relatively speaking. This is our document, and it's quite long. We haven't reached the end yet. Let's scroll down a bit more. We haven't reached the end yet. Here we are. What I mainly want you to see is here. If you don't understand the parts above, it's okay. Just scroll to the very bottom to find examples, which are our examples. You can see. Name, right? Description, file-based URL. Aren't all these checks listed out? Right? It tells you how to solve this problem. You can just follow along. This is one of our examples. How should I put it? This thing in the intermediate exam, because there's a lot of content, right? It's quite normal to look at the help documentation, right? If you're not sure about something or have forgotten, just open it and take a look. These final examples, there are many examples. You can directly imitate. This is because the example includes the most commonly used practices, and our exam also tests these common practices. So it fits perfectly. If you happen to forget something, just open the document and look. You can directly copy it. This is a little trick. Alright, now let's get back on track and return to this question. Our question here is about configuring these reclining pants, right? So actually, I just looked at this document. Each question can have several modules, and there are several contents that need to be used, which you can directly print out. Of course, it's best if you can just memorize them. If you remember them, you can basically finish in a little over an hour. If there are some parts you're not very familiar with, right, you can look through the document occasionally, but flipping through the document can waste your time, actually. The effect isn't particularly good, so it's best if everyone memorizes these usages. Alright, next, let's take a look at our specific configuration. Let's look at the specific configuration. Alright, next, the first thing we need to do is, let's start by editing. In the context of our file, the question requires the file name, right? Here we continue. You can copy, you can copy. Actually, everything in the questions can be copied. Regarding the file, the required name is also in the question. But here, it can't be auto-completed. We need to manually write it out completely. Alright, let's edit it. After entering Mu'aidi squat first. The beginning. Next. As for the name, there are actually no requirements. This name has no requirements. As long as you can understand what it means, it's fine. You can write it however you like. Is writing 123 okay? It's not that it's not okay, but writing 123 is not recommended. What's the issue with just writing 123? When you're debugging later, if there's an error, how will you debug 123? You won't know where the error is. However, if you use a name with a pattern, what's the advantage? It's that with a patterned name, you can directly search for it by name. Hey, which specific part has an issue? It's like this. Next, we'll start writing the specific modules. The three above are the basic requirements, which are our name, host, and tax. Name refers to the name, which can be defined arbitrarily. Host here is our main host, and here we need to configure our sample repository for all hosts, so that's it. If in the subsequent tasks, it tells us specifically which host to work on. Flow. If we talk about test, right, or say pro and so on, you can write it specifically. Now for the first question, we are. For the second question, we say, oh. And then for the task here, it's the specific task. The specific module starts here, which is the module we just saw. Okay, here we write the name of the module. Then add below. Here, everyone should pay attention to what? Pay attention to the indentation issue. This sentence needs to emphasize the indentation situation throughout our playbook, which is the script. Our Ansible YML files are very strict. Indentation requirements, if you get the indentation wrong, then your format will have issues, and the format will throw an error. As for indentation, I generally default to 2 spaces, which has the advantage of our Starting from version 2.19, what does it support? It supports automatic indentation with the Enter key, so, relatively speaking, you don't have to type so many spaces anymore. In older versions, we had to manually adjust the spaces, which wasn't very convenient. Of course, now there's no problem, and we can directly use the Enter key, which now represents indentation. So the first thing we do is, the name here must be exactly the same as the title. It must be exactly the same as the title. If there's a mistake, then it's wrong, and points will be deducted. Here first, we write down the name. Write down this name. Okay, after writing the name, the next step. The description, this description actually has no practical significance. The practical significance is mainly to tell us what this repository is for, its purpose. It has no significance for the repository itself, right? But its meaning still has a function, which is to tell us what this repository is for, what software packages are inside, and specifically which services or software can be installed. This is its function. Okay, this is the second point. The third is the description, the next one. This is the most important part, the most important, without exception. If this is written incorrectly, you won't be able to connect to the repository later, which is our link. Okay, here you can actually see, hey, the first one is the first. the question from the previous beginner stage. It's the same path. Basically the same path. Okay, let's take a look here. As for the path, once we write out this path completely, actually, you only need to write it once. Just once. And then you can do what? Hey, you can directly copy it. You can directly copy it. And here, when we use the path, the first one is the base OS. Okay, next is our key. As for the key, the last time we handled it, we actually just used no. Using no or 0 means you don't need to specify what the exact key is. But if you write check yes, then you need to provide the JPG key. The path is quite long. It's a bit lengthy. Here we write it down. Basically, it's under the same path as the repository, and then it opens a new file. It's a new file. Okay, here we will fill this in. The name here is a bit long, so be careful not to make a mistake. If you write it incorrectly, because there's an issue here, which is that at this stage, all of our intermediate stages. Inside the file, because everything is within the file, you can't use the autocomplete command. It's mostly outside, in the command line operations, but actually, there's very little command line operation. Just starting this script and then verifying it. That's basically it. It can't be completed, so everyone needs to write it correctly themselves. Just be a bit more careful, because here we are completely unable to complete it. If it were the command line, we would have completed it long ago, right? We just write RPM and it completes, so we don't have to struggle to write it. This is why the intermediate exam takes more time, because commands can't be completed. You have to type everything manually. Okay, this is our first one. After explaining the first one, there's no need to write the second one. It's unnecessary. Just copy it directly. Just copy this segment. Okay? Just copy it directly. So what do we do after copying it over? Just change the name, change the path, change the name. That's all you need to do. First, the name over here. This name is called equals S. C, yeah. Okay, the same goes for the one below. After changing the name, what's next? Next is the description. For the description, change it here. Next, let me see. The path is over here. Change the last part of the path here. Okay, we've changed the path. After finishing, let's look below. Do we need to change this here? You can see here, actually, the two are the same. It's the same here. It's the key. We're using one key. Okay, after writing this, overall, pay attention to the indentation. Because now, with the default indentation, when you press enter, it will automatically indent for you. It might be indented further back, so be careful not to follow its default indentation. Its indentation has a certain level of intelligence, but it's not particularly smart. It can help you indent, but it's not very accurate, as it doesn't know whether you need to indent or not in the next step. So in this case, you need to make your own judgment. So here it is. We can see you must ensure that each column is perfectly aligned. After typing each time, check it yourself, just to make sure. Alignment is all you need. Each indentation is 2 spaces, always 2 spaces. If something is misaligned, it means the indentation is incorrect. Check if there are extra or missing spaces and adjust accordingly, either by adding or deleting spaces. This is our indentation issue, and indentation is the most crucial point. If the indentation is wrong, your script won't run. It simply won't execute. So here, what do we start with? Let's begin. Let's execute this. Our script. Execute our script. Alright, Next, we will specifically run this script and see the effect. Save it. To run the script, the default method is to use playbook followed by the file. Of course, in this new version of the environment, this is mainly the method we use now. Run, and then with M, we output its error message to the standard output. Like this. Output it like this. Here, it will give an error, and the reason for this error is because of our setup. This error actually doesn't matter. This error is actually not a big deal. This is a configuration from our previous first question, right? There's a configuration in DPD that requires something. We need to adjust this because by default, it only supports the Ansible playbook. One usage, if we need to use this new version, we need to, in the environment, add a few more commands, So first we should execute something. First execute this of ours. First, we need to log into the container. Again, it's a container. But at this stage, we don't have any container-related questions. No container-related questions. We just log into the container. Just simply log in. The user password is the same as before. The main purpose of our container is to generate the commands for the environment we just need to use. Okay, this is the first step. For this, we need to wait a bit, just a few dozen seconds. After running for a while here, it's essentially downloading all the images. Once all the images are downloaded and loaded, we will execute one final command. For this, we need to start our collections, because this is also a newly added content. Okay, this side is also running normally now. After it runs, you can press ESC to exit. After exiting, we can execute that command we just mentioned. It's this one. Here, we have this. Did we write this option incorrectly? Then it starts running the basics here. As you can see, when the script runs here, each completion will have something. You see, there will be a task. This is the first step, second step, third step. It is divided into steps. In the subsequent parts, this step is considered few, but later on, there are many steps. When dealing with some scripts, if there's an error somewhere, you just check that part. Ultimately, as long as you can see everything is green or yellow, there is no problem. Both green and yellow are fine. But this is not necessarily the case. Later on, even if there is red, it's not a problem, as long as your script can run completely without major issues. Some red errors are actually required by the task. Here, green means it's normal, right? Green is normal, and yellow indicates there are modifications. Normally, it's yellow. No modifications. Normally, it's green. That means the command execution is truly correct. If some content has been modified, it's yellow. If not, it's green. Just distinguish between these, everyone. Both of these are fine, and purple is a warning. Just ignore it. You only need to pay attention when it's red to see what the specific error is. This is an issue with our color coding, so just distinguish between them. In the end, once everything here is executed, there shouldn't be any problems. There's not much more to this task. To check, at most, we can use a command to view all of them. For example, we can directly install something. As usual, let's install a service again. I'll still install the FTP service. This command here essentially means to execute the installation command on all other nodes. The installation here will take a little time, probably a few dozen seconds, so we can wait a bit. After the installation, as long as everything here is yellow, it's fine. It must be yellow because it's installing a service, so there will definitely be changes. You can see, that the installation is complete, right? Everything is installed, so there's no problem. This is our configuration for the second questions repository. Once configured, you can install some software to verify it. This is our second questions repository configuration. Be sure to pay attention to indentation, and make sure to follow the script's indentation. Make sure to write it correctly. Okay, this is one of our examples. This is a basic way to write a script, the basic format. Of course, later on, we will introduce different content to everyone. So, for our second question, we'll stop here for now. If you need the complete question bank, you can leave a comment below and purchase the most stable question bank at the best price. That's it for today, everyone. Goodbye.